Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our HR Business Services Committee. It is Monday, January 12th, 2026, and it is about 4:33 p.m. First of all, I'd like to welcome back Member Henry Banks to our committee and welcome Sarah Mikesell to joining our committee this year. So I will get started with our HR Human Resources report for this month. The district has received a request to bargain from the NCBAA unit, which is the Non-Certified Business Division Administrators Association unit for the contract years 25-27. Payroll department is working on W-2s, and those will be sent out at the end of the month. Posting for summer school teaching positions has happened, which is good to hear. Some things that our HR team is working on is that the Minnesota paid leave has begun. So the benefits department has received about 20 applications from the state so far. And I see that we have our Human Resources Director, Steve, here. I had a couple questions about the PFML. Sure. I'm wondering, I saw later in the packet, just wanted to point out that we chose not to top off, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And then I was wondering what percent of this benefit is paid by the employer and what percent is paid by the employee?
Right now, it's split 50-50. So there's a tax that's paid by the employee every payroll, and then also half is covered by the district.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any other questions about Minnesota paid family medical leave at this point? Okay. So some other things that our human resources team is working on, teacher retirement information sessions they were held on January 8th, and then they'll be held again on January 21st. They're processing paid leave applications, working on end-of-the-year reporting, and then currently we're in negotiations with the DWIA, so the Duluth District-Wide Administrators Association unit for the contract years 25-27. And then we're also working on getting ready for non-certified summer positions like extended school year.
And just for everybody's knowledge, DWIA are a variety of types of positions, but quite often, like our coordinators tend to fall into the DWIA unit, so it's kind of a middle leadership group.
Great, thank you for that clarification. Member Mikesell?
Just going back, thank you for the information. So the Non-Certified Business Division Administrators Association, I was just curious, like what kind of positions those are, how many people are in that unit, if you have that off the top of your head. Otherwise, you can get that to me.
I don't have that off the top of my head, but I can get you that information either after this meeting or for the next meeting.
That would be great. Thank you so much.
Great, thank you. Some upcoming changes and improvements to the department. We're in the process of hiring a human resources manager and a payroll specialist. Obviously, we've welcomed Steve Johnson, so thank you for being here at this meeting as well. And we're gearing up for career fair season, and we're registered to attend at least 6 job fairs, job and career fairs over the next 2 months, which is really great to see. And then towards the bottom, we see kind of some general staffing report numbers, including some open positions. 23, is that right? 23 teacher positions open?
Yes, not necessarily full-time. They could be like long-term subs or just different one-offs that are coming, but there are some open positions, but not 23.
Okay, got it. So not 23 full-time FTE, got it. Member Mikesell?
And looking further down, it does appear that 15 of those positions are for summer school. And so I noticed that we're starting to hire for summer school as well. So those aren't positions that are currently in need of a person teaching students at this time.
Great, thank you.
And that was going to be a part of my question. So I'm wondering how many summer school teachers the district needs to have or are hoping to have for that season?
The positions were posted, I believe, last week, and it could be upwards of 60, depending on what that final count is, but they post them ahead of time and then work internally, then start to go external. So it could be up to 60. Thank you.
Superintendent Angus, did you have
Sure,
something to add?
just because we have tightening budgets and things like that, just a reminder to folks that summer school has different funding, and so we have the funding for summer school, for the most part, is separate funding.
Thank you for pointing that out. I actually had that question rolling around in my brain last night, so it's good to clarify that. Seeing no other questions on the Human Resources Monthly Department Summary Report, does anyone else have anything to add to that report or other thoughts? Okay, if not, we'll move on to our enrollment report. As you know, we have many different kind of ways to look at our data, which I really appreciate on our enrollment report. If you look at the first one, which is just our standard enrollment report for, you can see all of our different schools and how the enrollment has changed. And you'll see that we're at 8,158.25 students right now. If you look at the next report, the 25-26 month-to-month enrollment changes by school, this is an interesting one. If you look at the first column, that's EOY, that's end of year. So that's where we were at each school at the end of the year last year. So if you look at Congdon Park, for example, we ended the year at 474 students. And if you follow that line all the way over, you'll see that right now we are up by 11 students overall from where we were last year. Yeah. And then if you look down below on that page, from where you look at the green, the first bigger green column, the current month, it's comparing the current month to the end of the year. We are up 127.47. And then if you look over current month to the January of 25, we're at 25.17 students. So we started off way ahead of the game at 127.47 students more, but to be at this point in the year and still ahead at 25.17 students, that's really good. Any other comments on that? I know it's a lot of data. I always like looking at the line graph, 2 more graphs in. For me, it says page 7, but I like that. You'll see that the yellow line graph is this year, 25-26, and you'll see where we started way up above. And then last year was 24-25, that's in gray. So you can kind of see where we see those 25 students kind of ahead coming in with the yellow star and the gray star on the line there. Any questions about our enrollment report? Oh, Member Banks, sorry.
So I'm looking at Myers-Wilkins and notice that the numbers has gone up. What is the capacity looking like at Myers-Wilkins? How are things going there?
In terms of the number of students at Myers-Wilkins that were added this year, the transition from Lowell were approximately 150 students. Myers-Wilkins has the capacity and room to accommodate all of those students. And so their enrollment is around 452. So it was built to accommodate that number of students.
All right, seeing no other questions about our enrollment report, we will move on to our child nutrition department report. The Wellness Committee met for a second time, and a couple new members were welcomed, and work continued on reviewing the current wellness policy for revision. The committee decided to meet for 1.5 hours in the future versus 1 hour to ensure we get the policy work done, and the next meeting is in February. And then the child nutrition team began a very preliminary summer meal site plans after attending the first summer programming meeting. And then you'll see our staffing report where we have a few different jobs open and the fact that we hired an employee at Laura MacArthur. And I know Director Zunich wanted to share another little piece of information that wasn't on the report about Ordine.
Ordine was really struggling with serving all the students there at lunchtime. It left the students with 6 minutes to eat, which is not sustainable. So a facilities manager, Brian Brown, and Sheila Oak from Food Nutrition, they analyzed it along with the manager, and they added another line. And it's been, everyone's thrilled to pieces. It started last Monday. They literally cut a hole in a wall, and yeah, it was the whole thing. And interestingly enough, the serving equipment line is still not here. It won't even be shipped till February 20th. So Sheila's serving off of tables. But they had 100 more students that came through the lunch line. And when I asked that question, Sheila felt it because kids didn't have to wait as long, so they chose to eat. Interestingly enough, they serve between 800 and 900 students a day at Ordine for lunch, but only around 100 for breakfast. So that was a wonderful result. And also, there are some audit results that we will be bringing forth to February or March, and I can bring her to HR Business Services or Committee of the Whole. We can talk about that. The results of that audit. She was audited for the evening meal program that she serves at Denfeld, and so we wanted to give you the results of that. It was quite intensive, so we will be bringing forth those results to you.
Great, thank you. I know I would just make one, and I see Member Mike has a comment too, but I just am really glad to hear that about Ordine. I know my kids have commented just over the years, no matter where they're at, it just seems like making sure that all of our kids get through the line, get fed, and can go out to recess or maybe at the high school level visit with their friends a little bit. It's tight in a lot of our schools, so I really appreciate where it was really tight taking a look at it, and would love to see us take a look at our other schools too to see how we can get that line moving faster. I know my own kid rarely takes hot lunch because it's too slow for him. But Member Mike,
I just want to thank all the staff and community members and parents who are part of the Wellness Committee. That's some really interesting work, and there's a lot of people who are really committed to our kids in the district and the services that we provide who are sitting on that, so thanking them for their service. I'm curious, I saw in some headlines that the federal government has declared they're going to free some USDA funding to Minnesota. And it's my understanding that the USDA funds some of our lunch programs or certain portions of lunch programs. I don't know if we have any comments about that or if we know any more details about what that would look like here.
I do not know anything yet. I believe that just came out 4 or 5 days ago. I read that. Sheila is really good at working with me when there's any new communication. So I would hope in the next week or two I will find out more about it.
And then do we have, not off the top of your head right now, do we know how much funding we get from the USDA for some of our lunch programs or child nutrition programs?
Yes, it's roughly $2 million
Per year?
per year.
Okay, thank you.
great questions. Thanks, Member Mike. Director Zunich, did you have another comment? Question? Okay. Great. All right, seeing no other questions or comments, we'll move on to our Facilities Department report. As you looked at this report, you probably saw that there is a lot going on with our facilities and maintenance across the district. I'm not going to read all of them. I did read through all of them, and I know you guys did too. I'll highlight a couple, and then if other folks want to highlight other projects they found interesting, that's absolutely great. I noticed that at Denfeld, the clock tower heating project is completed. That was done by Benson Electric. We've talked about that previously. of why that needed to be done. I also noticed that, let's see, there was another one. Lakewood Elementary, they're changing over from fuel oil to propane, so boilers and hot water heat conversion. I went through that this last year where I work, so I know that that's a big project to change from one fuel source to another. And Myers-Wilkins, I thought I would note that the conditional use permit with the city of Duluth for the installation of the guardrail is approved, and we're waiting on the city to do the installation. So really glad to hear that that's approved, and appreciate the city for their collaboration on that project. And then also at Myers-Wilkins, it looks like they're working on some quiet room build-outs, and those were completed. And then as far as the staffing report goes, our facilities team wanted to acknowledge the challenges that our operations staff have been facing recently due to a higher than usual number of sick employees. And this has undoubtedly put a strain on the team, and they really appreciate everyone's flexibility and commitment to maintaining our operational standards despite these circumstances. And I would also extend the gratitude of the entire board for their work too. It's really hard when you're understaffed, and we really appreciate that. On a more positive note, we'd also like to wholeheartedly thank the operations team for their outstanding work during the recent holiday season, holiday break. The team successfully completed critical equipment maintenance across all our school locations and performed thorough deep cleanings. So just wanted to thank everyone for their dedication and hard work. Any questions or comments? Other things folks want to highlight on the facilities? Superintendent Magus?
Just a quick comment, and I was, you noted it as well, you know, that the facilities team works really, really hard during breaks, especially short breaks like the holiday break, and a couple other projects that I think are exciting, or one at least is the the Lincoln Park Auditorium lighting. As you know, we're doing a lot of lighting projects throughout the district, and those actually, over the course of the next few years, should start saving hundreds of thousands of dollars. So when we start thinking about tight times, it's good to have things going in that are going to be saving us money for years and years to come.
Absolutely, thank you. Seeing no other questions or comments, we'll move on to our technology report. The district's core switch was replaced over holiday break. The new device occupies significantly less space in the district's leased data center. It'll also offer longer serviceable life and consume less power than the equipment it replaced. And then an online faxing system has been implemented for all of the district's fax numbers. And then some of the things that we're working on, the first one I have a question about, it actually ties into the core switch. It says, notice was given to reduce our footprint of leased space at our rented data center location. This change will be effective in the fall of this year and will reduce recurring expenses for the department. I was just wondering where, like if we need to reduce, where will the data be stored then? Greg, can you answer that?
The equipment being reduced at this location is not equipment that actually stores data. It's equipment that passes network traffic, basically from certain locations to other locations and to and from the internet between our buildings and the outside world. So it's not actually, we're not able to reduce our footprint based on a reduction in server hardware that stores data. We're reducing our footprint based on modernization of network equipment that basically sends around data. So that is probably the best explanation I could offer.
Got it, okay. And then while I have you here, the online faxing system, does that, I'm assuming that helps streamline some processes. The faxes can go right to people's email, is that the
Yes,
idea?
and they can be sent right from people's email as well. So it makes some processes more efficient, lets business be conducted from anywhere if needed, and it also reduces our need to maintain hardware locally, like fax machines or copiers that can fax.
Sure. Does that help with confidentiality too, I assume? Since the emails are encrypted and there's less paper flying around, or maybe not?
I think you could absolutely
necessarily.
make the argument, right? It would depend how you're treating the fax machine that it's replacing. If it was locked in a safe room with only 2 people that had access, maybe the old system's safer. But if you treat the new system properly, I think it's adequate. It offers the needed protections.
Great, thank you. And I see Member Mike still has a question.
As someone who had to call IT twice at my regular job today, forgive me if some of these questions are a little bit below your pay grade. But in terms of our rented data center location, when the notice was notice given to the school district, or did we tell the data center that we will be using less space?
We told the data center that we'll be using less space.
Okay, and that's, to make sure I understand correctly, it's because of our equipment being more modern will take up less physical space?
Yes, correct. That's accurate.
Okay, and then does that end up saving us money, or is it the price of the equipment, like kind of a wash in terms of rental fees?
Actually, the equipment that we installed to modernize what we had there was purchased long before I got here, and we hadn't gotten around to configuring it and installing it. So I can't speak to like a new cost for that equipment because it was already realized quite some time ago. I think that we're one of, if not the only, school district in probably the state that leases data center space from a local entity like we do off our own sites. And one of the reasons that that's nice, because we have the resource here to do it, is that we can scale up and scale down as we need. If we build a room inside this building to do it, then if we need to add on to that, we have construction costs and things, or we have to buy a bunch of new furniture to do it. It's not that way, and so we need to take advantage, I think, of the flexibility of the utilization of an outside resource that we happen to have in town. And we intend to, over the years, I think, scale that up and down as we need.
That's excellent. That was my next question, is whether or not it would be better for us to have that on site. So thank you for explaining that.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you. I'll move on with the report, see if we have any more questions. We've begun preparing documents for filing for the upcoming E-rate season. As a reminder, E-rate is the federal program that pays for certain internet and in-district network products and services at schools and libraries. Classroom teachers and our tech team continue review of several new interactive flat panel displays deployed in pilot classrooms. Those are the smartboard devices, I believe. And then Google Gemini was enabled for all staff as the new calendar year began, after educators were provided with additional AI training. And then the staffing report for the technology department. The department currently has 3 vacancies across our network and security teams. We have a network architect position, a security analyst position, and a network engineer 1 position open. We also have pending job offers out for 2 of these 3 positions, which is good news. And we'll begin interviewing for the network engineer position in January. Any questions or comments on the technology report? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to our transportation report. Our commitment to safely transporting Duluth students remains our focus as we continue to navigate the daily challenges of school busing. The dedication of our driving team is truly commendable. They consistently demonstrate professionalism and resilience, which positively impacts our students' daily experience. Some things that the transportation department is working on, a focus remains on updating student routing and diligently checking for potential errors. Bus and van maintenance is actively managed by our mechanics to ensure continuous operation. Furthermore, we are conducting ongoing training for new bus and van drivers as recruitment needs arise. And then some upcoming changes to the department. Our ongoing commitment to driver training, which focuses on enhancing efficiency and skill, has resulted in the highest volume of accomplished training in many years. And then the staffing report, our driver trainee passed his test and is now licensed as of December 23rd. I know we read about that last month. And then we have 2 new trainees that start the first week of January. And we currently run 29 buses out of transportation, and our average mileage on those are 100,141 miles. I don't see the average age of our buses, but I know we get that occasionally, so that's okay.
I apologize.
Yep, that's okay. Any questions on our transportation report? Okay. If not, we will move to our recommended resolutions. We have a lot, so our first is the resolution of acceptance of donations to Duluth Public Schools. We have a lot of them here, and I just wanted to highlight, if you look at this list, you'll see a lot that are for the ALC, the Area Learning Center Student Holiday Auction. A lot of generous community members, and I just want to thank them. And I also want to thank our staff that put on this amazing event each year for ALC students. I was unable to go this year. I believe I've gone once in the past, but Member Mikesell, I know you went. Do you have any other comments on that after looking at all the donations?
Yeah, absolutely. I know all of our schools really try to support students during the holiday season, but ALC did a tremendous job with the feast that was provided by staff to students, as well as their auction, and then also an area where students were able to use funds that they raised for themselves during the last few months of the year for, great behavior, going above and beyond to purchase gifts that they could be giving to loved ones or for themselves. They had wrapping stations so they could really get their holidays started off good prior to the holiday break. And it was a really great thing to see.
Great, thank you for sharing that. And of course, there's a lot of other donations in here too, but because there were several pages of those donations, I thought I would highlight that one. Yeah. So that's our resolution this time, and then I will move on to our consent agenda. Obviously, we have our HR staffing report, and then we have the individual contract for the Director of Human Resources, Steve Johnson, in here. So that was in here. I took a look at that. Any questions on item B, the contract? Okay.
Just a comment, just a reminder for folks that that Mr. Johnson's contract is for a director position rather than an executive director position, because we shifted the supervision of facilities to Executive Director Simone Zunich, and also the supervision of human resources to Executive Director Zunich. So basically, Simone oversees Steve, and that is resulting in some cost savings too. So there's some decrease in administrative cost in this, as well as some efficiency seeking. So basically, Assistant Superintendent Bonds oversees all of the teaching, learning, and equity work, and Simone Zunich oversees all of the business services, or what we sometimes call operational work.
Great, thank you for that clarification, and we're really glad to have you on board in this role, Steve, so thank you.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Item C on our consent agenda is a job description for a purchasing clerical. This is pretty standard. We've been working on revising a lot of our clerical job descriptions. So remember, we reviewed many of them over the last few months, and this is another one. So it looks like some small tweaks to that job description. And there's an activities clerical in there as well, I see. Any questions on the clerical job descriptions? Seeing none, we'll move on to our budget summary, financial report. There's a few things I want to point out here, and then maybe Director Zunich might want to add in a few things. But when we're looking at this report, I really appreciate that Simone added in the percent spent on the side. It's not always a 100% accurate, because if you think about it, let's say you have an organization that, buys all of their technology that they need at the beginning of the year, you might see that you're 90% of budget in the first few months of the year, but it is a good guideline. So at the top, you'll see we have our different funding pools, and then we have our revenues at the top and our expenses at the bottom. I would point out a few where we're looking like that we're trending over. So transportation, the third line down in expenses, we're sitting at 64%. And really that should be at about, what, Simone, did you say 50% of our budget
We should
right
be
now?
trending at 50% right now.
Yep.
And it's mostly due to contracts that we have to pay for private transportation outside the district. Transportation also has a staff that has not, they've been out sick a lot, so then in turn, we have to call Voyager to cover routes, and that all costs.
So when we see on our transportation report that we're trying to hire, and train more drivers and get subs, that will hypothetically could reduce some of those costs, which is great. So we really do appreciate all the training that our transportation department has been doing for staff. And then I would point out the food service line, which is the second line, for the expense, we're at 73% of budget. If you remember back to when our auditor was here in January, we're in a good position there. We do buy a lot of food and different things up front. So that is contributing to the, probably non-perishable food, obviously, but that is contributing to why we see 73% of the budget at this point in the year. And at this point in the year, we're at about 50% of our budget. We're halfway through, because our fiscal year starts July 1. Yep. Member Mikesell.
So quick question about the transportation. When
Yep.
we talked about reasons for being over what our planned budget was at this time, and we mentioned that our contract with Voyager is is it more than expected, or just more than what we thought it was going to be when we first signed with them?
Our aid for transportation, if you look at the top, is 3.8 million this year. But we have budgeted 7.8 million in expenditures. So we just don't get enough transportation aid to cover all the transportation costs we have.
Okay, so then our revenue for transportation, we're only including what we receive for transportation.
That is
So
correct from state aid.
Anytime that we've gone over, we've then had a dip. Is it the general fund that we're pulling that from?
Correct. Funds 1, Funds 3, and Fund 5 all make up the general fund. Some districts lump them all together, but we keep them separate, which I highly recommend, so then we can track it better. But those 3 funds make up the general fund.
Got it. Thank you for that clarification.
And Superintendent Magus, you can go first.
I was going to say, we had, and you might be commenting on the same when we were talking about the costs. The reason why we have higher costs in transportation, part of it is that we, quite often we have different people out at different times, and even though we have drivers or routers and mechanics and others driving, sometimes we've had to call upon Voyager to pick up those extra routes, because really, as Executive Director Zunich has said, that one of our primary directives is that we get our kids to school, and because of the safety reasons, because of the learning reasons. So it costs us quite a bit when we have a canceled route that we can't cover, and then we have to basically pay to have it done by Voyager.
Can you also speak a little bit, and if you can't, that's okay, but I know there's huge inequities between rural districts and where you have longer distances to bus than like urban districts that might be a little more compact, which is why we've seen, one reason why we've seen rural school districts go to a 4-day week.
Sure, and I can speak a little bit to it, but Executive Director Zunich probably has more to say. But yeah, our district is very, very long and narrow, and we also have a lot of different kind of strange routes. Like, if you've driven, all of us have driven around Duluth, and there's various streets that kind of go in odd directions and take a little more time to get up and down and around. But then we also have a lot of rural areas too, if you think about all the way from up near, up near Knife River all the way down to Fond du Lac. It's a very, very long district. We also have a lot of hills that sometimes take a little more navigation, particularly in the wintertime. I think many of you have been down some of the narrow streets in Duluth where we have, especially when cars are parked on both sides of the street, it takes a lot more to navigate. And so the costs for transportation here in Duluth tend to be greater than they are in a lot of other places. Also, I'm guessing on this one, but thinking about what it takes to warm up our buses too. It's a very cold climate, and sometimes we need to make sure our buses are warmed up for the kids and ready to roll.
Great, thank you. Anything to add, Director Zunich?
Yes, please. So thank you, Superintendent. You did a good job. That aid is called sparsity aid, and that is if we have a very rural area to bus, but we don't get a lot of sparsity aid. We get some for some of our routes, but for the most part, we just have over 26 mile a route that are long and narrow, and we run a lot of routes here to get everybody bused. So we don't get a lot of sparsity aid just because we are not spending hours, 50% of our routes are not, more than 5 or 10 miles away.
Great, thank you. Member Mikesell?
I just really appreciate this conversation about this, especially when we look at our legislative priorities. And one of those is increasing our state transportation aid to reflect the inflation in Duluth's unique geographic service area. And so I really look forward to having conversations with our legislative partners about this so that we can continue to give the best service for our students and their families.
Absolutely, thank you. I would also point out our general fund, Fund 1, is sitting at 49% of expenses. That is on the high end. We would think it would be around 43 to 44% at this point. A lot of that is staffing. There are also the unfunded mandates would contribute to that as well, right, Director Zunich?
Somewhat, yes, but
Somewhat.
it's all still built into payroll.
Okay, got it. Yeah, so it's really, any organization that is teaching students, like a school district, it's very heavy on staffing. So that's where we're at right there. And then just some unfunded mandates to think about that have been affecting our budget. The READ Act, what came along with that are some lane changes. As staff get education credits, they can change lanes. And that was an increase in about $685,000 this year. Yep. And then also PFML, we're having to put in, the employee is putting in, but so is the school district putting in. So those are two examples of, again, strains on our budget, just to think about holistically when we look at the whole picture of our budget. I think that's all I have right now. Does anyone have, or for the budget, any other comments on that, questions? Okay, if not, we will move on to our fundraisers. There were 3 fundraisers that were reported, one for Denfeld, one for East, and one for Ordine East. Glad to see those happening. And then under E1, there is a quote for the Homecraft media furniture. Director Zunich, is that the one you said where we might get another quote, or no? Because you said something about Homecraft earlier. Different. That's about the flooring. Okay, sorry. But yes, you can see that we got a few different quotes for new media furniture at Homecraft on there. And then we also see that a teaching, learning, and equity department program board summary report was given to us. I see that there wasn't a date. Oh, there is a date, 1/8/26, never mind. So that's just giving us an update on the First Street building. I didn't have any questions, but I did appreciate seeing the photos. Even since I went in December, I see a lot more sheetrock and drywall taping in the photos. Any questions about that report? Definitely appreciate that, though. Then moving on, we had a notice of intended projects for our school district. These are projects that, it's strictly informational, it's projects that are coming up, and these are embedded in our LTFM plan. So you'll see like fencing replacement, flooring replacement. You'll see an update for most of our schools there. Any questions on that project report? Member Mikesell?
So Member Sadowski, you said that's embedded in our LTFM plan. Is that the 10-year plan that we have? Okay.
Yes,
So
that's
this-
correct.
Okay, and so this is just for this coming year, and then other things that we have in that 10-year plan we'll see in subsequent years?
Correct. We, the district used to provide this yearly to the school board, and then it went away. I brought it back now with Brian Brown and our purchasing coordinator, Kathy, just so you know what's going to be happening.
I really appreciate it. It helps, as people ask, what kind of work is being done. So this is great. Thank you.
Yeah.
None of it is very glamorous.
No.
Great, thank you. Moving on, we have our expenditure contracts. You'll see the overview of our expenditure contracts on page 39 and all of the expenditure contracts behind there. A couple I wanted to point out. The first one on our list is the CESO, the Center for Effective School Operations. And that is going to be providing support. There's going to be a payroll position that's going to be out for a little bit. And so this contract is going to be providing support for that position until that staff can return. And also we'll add a little bit of support to our Director of Human Resources. Any questions on that contract? Okay, and then I would point out the Whipfly contract for the amount of $6,250. That is our solar project audit. So this is kind of the last part of the solar project. They'll submit invoices, and we're really hoping that we may be able to get $200,000 back in tax credits. So I would give a shout out to all of our staff who worked on this project, but also all of our students, past and present, who advocated for solar. I think it's cool to see this is kind of that final piece, and to get $200,000 back in tax credits would be great. We would not see that money, though, until 2027. Anything to add, Dr. Zunich?
No, nothing to add to that, other than they will submit all of our tax documents for us. You have to have a CPA do this work, and they'll start working on that in July. And I just would like everyone to note that an RFP will be going out, I believe it's later this week, to be published for our audit firm. So we will be submitting it through the DNT, and then it will get published. And then we will also be emailing it to roughly 8 auditors in the state of Minnesota, because our Whipfly audit contract ended this year. So we are, for the FY25, so we will be looking for an auditor for the FY26 school year with a 1-year contract, but potentially we might add 3 more years to it. So we have started that process, and we will bring those results to the board in March.
Great, thank you. Any other questions or comments on our expenditure contracts this month? Seeing none, we'll move on to our, let's see where we're at, expenditure. We don't have any no-cost contracts, so we'll move on to our revenue contracts, which for me is on page 116. There is one revenue contract with the St. Louis County Family Services Collaborative, $31,511.25 for MTSS coordinator. So I assume that that organization is helping provide the salary for an MTSS coordinator. Is that correct?
No, this is the TLE,
Oh, okay.
MTSS coordinator. So this is just it's short-term direct student supports that promote safety, stability, engagement, and school success. So it won't be paying for that coordinator?
Oh, it won't, okay.
No. Just everything else that supplies and that type of thing.
Got it,
To
okay.
help, to support the program.
Great. Thank you for clarifying that. You're welcome. And that's wonderful, and we really thank the St. Louis County Family Services Collaborative for that support. Next, you'll see that we have our grant applications. There were a couple here, more than a couple. I wanted to point out that we have a parent who's a parent at Myers-Wilkins. I actually met her last week when I was touring the school for us, but I see that she's applying for several different grants for Myers-Wilkins, it looks like. Yeah. There's one from the Minnesota DNR for Myers-Wilkins. There's one from the Northland Foundation Youth and Philanthropy Grant, which is cool because this is actually, it sounds like it's a student grant that maybe this person's helping with. So that's neat to see our students involved. There's one for the Minnesota Department of Education, No Child Left Inside. I love that. And that would be for Career and Tech Ed. It's a CTE, it says. There's one from the Minnesota Historical Society for the Ordine East Middle School History Day Club, and then a slew of others as well. So just wanted to highlight a couple. Really appreciate the work that goes into writing these grants, and then also on the back end, if we get them, maintaining them, so.
And I just want to reiterate the same with money being tight. It's great when people are exploring opportunities for additional funding, and we really appreciate people going above and beyond, and then also the work that's done to make sure that it coordinates and fits with our themes and our policies and procedures and programming to make sure that it meshes.
And last but not least, we have our change orders that are signed. We have one change order this time. This is for Superior Glass Incorporated. There was additional work for removal of glass to allow for material delivery at our First Street build-out, and that was for $3,420. So with that being said, that kind of ends our report. Any last comments or questions? Member Banks?
I failed to ask this earlier. Has the city shared with the school district as to when they're going to get that railing completed? Is there any dates or anything?
And actually, it's more bulwarks rather than a railing. Is that correct, Executive Director?
I believe, I was just sent an email today that that whole process was in place with the previous facilities director. And so they're now asking, so I said in the email, please have that person contact me. And so I can figure out where we're at with it. I'll get you more information.
Thanks.
Great, thank you, Member Banks. That's a good question. Seeing no other questions or comments, we will adjourn from our HR Business Committee meeting.